Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice by Matt show. My name is Matt Bertho. I'm your host, and today I have a very, very, very special guest. And I said very 3 times on purpose because my guest today is Derrion Thomas. Derrion is from the Kansas City area and went to school at Mizzou, played football for them, got his, I think he got his business degree.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And he just happens to be one of the sons of my favorite football player of all time, the legend himself, Hall of Famer Derrick Thomas. And and Darren, you got to speak on behalf of your dad.
Yeah, yeah. Was able to. I've had the honor and the privilege to be able to speak on his behalf a few times since his passing, but was able to go down to Canton and be able to accept that honor for him. For the Hall of Fame. So that's one of the great experiences of my life thus far.
And what was that like, man? Welcome to the show. Obviously, I forgot to say that.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. This, I'm pinching myself. And you guys, if you watch the video, he is wearing one of his dad's sideline hats right now. And you're the reason. I'm just gonna get this out of the way. I told Derrion off camera already, but the reason why I loved watching your dad play is he played with such passion and intensity and fire and excitement. And the dude was humble, like super quiet. I never
Yeah,
saw him talking smack to anybody. I never saw, like, he would just punish you. Like, but I never saw
yeah,
him talk any trash ever.
yeah. Maybe underneath the helmet a little bit, but for the most part, he was a very he's a more quiet person. Apart from maybe that Monday night game with him and Shannon Sharp, but
Yes.
for the most part, he was I would say humble, yes, but somebody who very much enjoyed his life and enjoyed who he was.
Mhm.
To be around him and to go around the city of Kansas City with him was, I think, at last I explained it, it was like, catching lightning in a bottle. Like, he moved around so much and, had so many different commitments and so much that he was doing that, if you could sit him down and get him still in a 20-minute or 30-minute period, I mean, it was a great, this was a great thing
Mm.
to do. But his, who he was as a person is really, what I really cherish about, Derrick
Yeah.
Thomas, the person.
Well, tell me about him. Like, cause I don't know anything about him other than having some amazing children and what he did for the Chiefs. I knew he had some foundations, um, but as a father, what were some of the things that you really loved about him?
Yeah, growing up, it's looking back on my childhood, it's really my friends like to joke around that I had a shark when I was growing up, and you know some of the things I say about my childhood, they're like, oh, you just skip over stuff like that as if it's normal, but for me,
It
it kind of was
was.
normal.
Yeah, it was
um,
normal.
Yeah, so yeah, I had a pet shark named Ziggy.
What kind of a shark was it?
I don't completely remember everything about it. He's probably 3 or 4 feet long, and
Dang.
yeah, so probably up until probably a little bit naive to say this, but I when I was a kid, my dad always told me that Ziggy had to go back to the ocean because he got too big. But I was at an event not too long ago, and a guy who originally had had sold my dad Ziggy, or where we got him from,
Yeah.
told me that Ziggy had a fungus and died, and I about broke down in the middle I was like, how could
Oh
you tell me
no.
that? But I mean,
No.
yeah, but but yeah, I mean, just things like that from my childhood. It was just you know, being around him. He would to put it into words is hard because I feel like you would have to understand his childhood and his upbringing to understand
Oh, really?
or the lack of childhood maybe that he had in the way that he came up, to kind of understand that when he had kids he really kind of poured everything into us,
Mm.
and a lot of the experiences that I maybe had were maybe a compensation for maybe what he never got to do or had when he
Man,
was a
I
kid.
understand that.
So, so maybe he overdid it in places. Like I had me and my mom were just kind of arguing about this the other day. My dad had a Mercedes, a two-seater Mercedes, that he had got. It's actually in the video where he talks about LT, and I think
Mm.
the quote is like, you know, the '90s belong to DT, and he pulls
Yes.
off in that car. So I
Yes.
had an exact replica of that car,
What?
it was an FAO Schwartz deal, and it was a stick shift, and pretty much the same car, and that was like 4 or 5 years old, and my mom was like, why do you buy a 5 year old a gasoline powered
Oh,
car? But I
no
mean,
way. It was
yeah,
gasoline powered?
yeah,
Come
and it was,
on.
yeah, and he would, just stuff like that. I mean, he would take us to like Toys R Us and shut down Toys R Us and let us kind of go and run around
Mm.
and do our own thing. And he really, I mean, like in conversations I've had with my mom, she really pushes it home that despite anything that he did in his life, or what anybody can say about him, at the end of the day his kids were really
Mm.
what he treasured. And he
Mm.
like I said, from my experiences, I mean, I can't say I really ever wanted for anything, except for maybe time,
Yeah.
um, with him, because
Yeah.
as you know, not only playing a professional sport is a demanding thing, but to be the front guy or to be the face of a franchise, you kind of give up that person, or that person understands that you know they have to give up one part of their life to excel in another. And to think that maybe further on in his life or later on in his life when he retired, maybe he regained that time, but unfortunately never got that ability to know if that would happen. But the times that we did have together were extremely, extremely. I treasure them. I mean,
Mm.
um, I'd probably say over the past week I've had more more reflection based on the Super Bowl and things like that than maybe I normally have. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, that's probably why all these feelings and stories are coming out just kind of
No, Darren, I
blah.
love this. I love this, man.
Um, but yeah, I mean that's think probably the past 2 weeks just being with the Super Bowl, and yeah, I think probably with the Super Bowl this month, and it kind of being the 24th anniversary
Mm.
of him passing, and probably the biggest thing is me being 33, which is the same age that he was when he passed away. So
Bro, I
a lot
didn't
of
even put that together.
yeah, so a lot of self-reflection. Maybe not even in a way that not in a comparison, but understanding what he was able to do in his life and kind of looking at my life, and it's probably one of the most difficult
Hmm.
months as far as like since his passing has been the forefront of the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl 58 and
Yep.
him not ever being able to accomplish that and coming so close to it
Yep.
and being around him and knowing what that would have meant to him and uh so that's a lot for an intro, but that
No, dude,
to unload on you for
no, I
what
love it.
kind of
I'm here for this. Like Darren, I talked to you before the call. I talked to you at the end of the last call that we had when we first met, and um, I'm thankful that you're able to share that because I know that I have goosebumps all over my body telling you this. I know how healing it is to share that with people that are in light, that care, that that
right.
um, that speaking that out loud is very good. It's very healing. And I say that we haven't talked about this part yet, but I lost my dad in June 2020. He had a Widowmaker heart attack, and
Mhm.
everything that you're saying, I have a hat of his downstairs, and I remember when he passed, I would just smell it because I missed that smell, and the thing that I wanted back, and this thing I still want back, is just to sit down with him and just to have a conversation, right? To be able to, also ask him questions that
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
mean,
get to
I think
ask.
and I think that's one of the hardest things is like you miss them, but you go through your daily life and life happens, life goes on,
Yep.
and then but I mean the hardest places are really when you need that advice or you need to talk to them or it's like other people other people have stepped in and I have an amazing support system that I mean my mom is one of the most awesome people um, that I know, and she's always been there, but you always want to talk to them, or you
Yep.
always want to talk to your dad and get their perspective. And yeah, the hardest thing is just not being able to have them in that moment, or to I would say look for the gratification or the satisfaction that they would have in your accomplishments. But not have that, let's say it leaves a hole, or it feels um I don't know if I can describe the feeling, but it feels some type of way to be in that moment and not be able to turn
Mm.
and have that conversation, or to pick up the phone and have that conversation. So
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean that's
Well, listen to you speak. Your dad left a legacy with you, light. Because man, Darian, oh, this is so good. This podcast, this talk with you right now. One of the things that your dad did better, I think, than anybody in the league. I mean, I think there could be a measurement stick on what I'm about to say of the greatest players of all time. What you're sharing with me today and this audience that's going to hear this is your heart and your emotions on a very vulnerable, deep level, bro.
yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, that's how your dad played the game.
Oh yeah.
And that's why we loved him so much. That's why he's still my favorite player. And when your dad passed, Darian, the Chiefs organization, lightning in a bottle, it wasn't there anymore. It
Yeah.
it and it vanished for decades. For decades.
Yeah. I mean,
And
you can really. I mean, as far as, him as a person and how he played the game and how, I mean, you could, from being around him as, growing up, it's, the intensity with what he trained. I could remember being in the weight room with those guys growing up when when I used to play hooky, or when we used to play hooky. He would. I was supposed to be going to school, and they would have a morning weight session that he'd have to be at, and so I'd either sleep out in the car, and then I'd
Oh.
show up to school show up to school late, or I'd just kind of hang out, and he and I would just hang out for the day. And then my mom would call and be like, "Hey, the school called and said he's not at school today," and he'd be like, "Well, we're out playing hooky today,"
Oh.
and uh, we'd go to practice and hang out, or one of his favorite restaurants was Houston, so we'd end up hanging out in the bar area at Houston's and eating chicken fingers and just kind of hanging out. I think he's one of the only people that back in those days could go into Houston's with a sleeveless shirt on and not be asked to leave.
He
um,
loved those cutoffs.
oh yeah, yeah,
He rocked those all the time.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, just but to be around him in those days, I mean, it was amazing to watch him. I mean, he would go through a full workout uh, in the garage before we would leave for games.
What?
I tell people that all the time, and they'd be like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, you would wake up on Sunday morning and uh, he'd be blasting gospel music, Kirk Franklin, and
What?
he'd be in the garage, knocking out a full workout.
Come on.
By the time we left for the game, he had already put in a full sweat, full workout, and before we got ready to get in the car to go to the game.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
Bro,
yeah,
that's why he's one of the greatest of all time.
yeah.
Because you
That
you look at Jordan, you look at Kobe, you look at some of the best athletes, just athletes of all
yeah,
time. That's the kind of crap they did.
yeah. I mean, I mean, I think the biggest thing was his film study was, I would say, second to none. But I mean, I don't.
Wow.
Uh, I know because I used to have to carry the thing around.
What was it? What
He
did you
used to carry
carry?
around. He used to carry around one of those VHS deals with the screen on them, and he would
Oh
carry around
yeah.
all the VHS tapes,
Oh
um,
man.
and he would take them everywhere with him. And I can remember as a kid sitting there watching film, and he would. I mean, he could find the little smallest minute of details that would, tip him off on when the center was snapping the ball, or you know, what they were going to try to do, blocking schemes to try to. It was to the point where like him and my him and my mom would actually watch film together, and
Oh man.
it would, to the point where she could actually tell you the play of what they were about to do before they did it from sitting in the stands, because she had watched
Holy
so much of it.
crap.
Yeah, that she could tell you exactly what they were about to do. And so, and he would explain it to her. And that's a lot of times, sometimes how he would, learn it and,
Yeah.
remember it, is that he was explaining it to her. And I mean, she was very knowledgeable about the game and knew knew exactly what was going on, because I mean, that's how he studied film. So,
Man.
but yeah, but I mean, just, remembering that, and you know, I mean, some of the downsides of that is, remembering you know, how demoralizing some of those losses were, and what the atmosphere was like when they took those losses, and how he took those types of deals. I mean, it was, you got to take the good with the bad, right? I mean,
Yep.
he was human. So,
Yep.
um, but he would go on streaks where, it was hard to even talk to him or be around him, based on, because I mean, I think he had main focuses in his life. And, the Super Bowl was one of them, obviously, Hall of Fame being one of them, being the best linebacker. So when he came up short in some of those things, I mean, let's say he was hard to be around, but he was hard to be
Well,
around.
dude,
So
I mean, like, again, he is literally one, if not the most intense player that I've ever watched. And
yeah, I mean, he
go ahead.
played with a ton of emotion. I mean, when I think about some of the performances that he had, I mean, I won't go into detail on some of them, but you look at the 7-sack game,
Yeah,
and you
that's
kind of
huge.
understand, yeah, and you understand that he that game coming up on his dad's his dad being a POW
Yep.
and being being shot down, and my dad actually looked for his dad for years and years, and never I don't believe he ever found out that he had passed away, but I think he held out hope that in some way or another that he was still out there. And let's say just after my dad passed away, information came back that he had been shot down and his remains had been identified at some point. But that's something that he never got to, never got that satisfaction. But I mean, if you look at that game and you understand that the night before that he was I mean, whatever, I'll share the story that he was out at a local restaurant, having drinks to the point where, the owner had to say, hey, Derek, you got a game tomorrow. You got to go home.
Holy crap.
Yeah. To understand the state of mind that he was in and the pain that he was in. I mean, it's like to go out on the field the next day.
That was a Monday night game.
Yeah. I mean, they could have put anybody in front of him and,
it didn't matter.
They didn't have a chance. I mean, he was playing from a place of pure emotion I mean, I think the greatness is for the greatest thing that he did was able to channel, those emotions to be able to do the things he did on the field. And I think,
Derrion,
do you
know who taught him how to do that?
I'm not sure. I know it came from I know a lot of it came from his time in Alabama. I know he was roommates with Cornelius Bennett back at Alabama, and so I think a lot of him being able to develop and grow as a person came from that, but also his I don't say want to be the best. I mean, he let's say resented Cornelius, but I mean, him being the upperclassman and having that whether it was that Cornelius
he blew him
always
away.
Got better of him, that became kind of a rival. And so he kind of, his thing was, he wanted to be better than Cornelius, and then it just kind of bloomed into,
better than Bruce Smith.
Yeah. Which I did have the pleasure of hanging out with Bruce Smith at the Hall of Fame induction. They were in the same induction class, and then randomly hanging out with him in Kansas City at Power and Light one night. He was randomly in town, and I ran into him, and I was like, "What are you doing in Kansas City?" And he was like, "I own real estate here." And I was like, well, that's weird, but okay. But yeah, so one night I partied with Bruce Smith at Mosaic of all places in P&L randomly when he was in town. Ran into him, and he was like, "Yeah, I own real estate here, so I come here every so often." I was like, that's probably one of the most random things
No, I
I
love that.
heard.
Well, Darian, let's
But
let's talk. You've given us such great insight into your dad, and um, you know, I wish my dad was still around. I wish your dad was still around. I mean, I
yeah,
think that we could always say that for sure.
yeah, always.
But I want to talk about you now, like your passions, your goals, your dreams. I know you went to Mizzou and played football there. Um, Talk to us about life after your dad passing with you, like and um, I know that you're working on your speaking and telling your story. So give us a little taste of that.
Yeah. I mean, our story basically is always, the beginning of the story always begins with our parents. So, I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
a part of that always lies in them and what they've given us and so on and so forth. So, uh, I would say that, um, that still continuing to grow as a person from where I was, after his passing. But you know, he really kind of instilled in me that I could, kind of do or be whatever I wanted to be. And some of that kind of that mindset, shows in the work that he did with the Third and Long Foundation,
Yep.
which was a foundation he started in 1990 or end of '89, which gave kids these enrichment opportunities and put them in front of things that they would never experience in their life had they not been in that program. And
Mm.
so seeing that and seeing him uh, encourage kids to follow their dreams and just being around him and what he did, it kind of I don't know if it's led me to my kind of entrepreneurial spirit
Yeah.
that I've kind of come across. But I mean, one of my biggest passions is helping people. I mean, when I first went to Mizzou as a walk on, originally I always thought I was going to be um, originally I always thought I was going to be the first black swimmer to swim on an Olympic team.
Whoa, I
Uh,
didn't know that, Darian.
yeah, so
That's legit.
that was my original goal. And so actually tore my labrum at a national meet in California. Actually, probably about two probably about 2 or 3 weeks after I swam against the guy who eventually became the first, Cullen Jones, who actually went on to become the first African American swimmer to swim on an Olympic team. So,
Come on,
um,
man. Oh.
yeah, yeah. So that was one of my biggest dreams and goals, and my dad fully supported that. I mean, he came across pictures of him at a swim meet. Maybe a couple weeks ago, and
Dang.
I'd sent them to my mom, and she was we were talking about him. But yeah, no, that was one of my original goals, and never really thought about football. I mean, it was always in my life, but never was. Swimming was my thing, and I played baseball and ran track and did a bunch of other sports and played soccer, but football was just never a thing, but my main focus, of course, was swimming. Um, and was able to be really successful at that. Uh, and it wasn't until I think I was 16, 17, when that happened. And really, that really kind of thrust me into a place of trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my I'm gonna say my life's goal or whatever was kind of pulled away all in like one race.
Man.
But then got the opportunity to was talking to friends and said, hey, that you're going to do now? And just kind of sitting around the house sulking wasn't getting it done. So
Nope.
uh, so I joined the football team my junior year of high school. Didn't really get any playing time, or really know what I was doing necessarily. But then turned around my senior season and was able to get, I mean, a pretty good amount of scholarship offers and opportunities. And then, yeah, went on to go to the University of Missouri and walk on as a preferred walk on at Mizzou and have a good time there. And then after graduating from Mizzou, was able to, after graduating, came back to Kansas City and was really looking for ways that, or what I was really going to do. And kind of found my passion in physical fitness.
Yep.
And training gym clients. Goes back to wanting to help people and
Yep.
and realize their goals and things like that. And over my time there, was able to train over 1,500 clients. And,
Dang, Derrion.
It was had several companies that we worked with in corporate fitness training, and was able to really change some people's lives and do some really good things. So I'm ways to attribute that to him, and what I was able to accomplish with those things as far as the entrepreneurial mindset that I came up with then, but also just my want to help people, and then also just able to use some of those funds that he was able to leave me behind to be able to pursue those dreams. So I mean,
and now you have a construction business, right?
Yeah. So when COVID started, fitness kind of became a what they call it, not non-essential workers.
Non-essential, yeah.
Yeah. So a friend of mine was starting a construction company, and he and I kind of linked up, and I thought I was going to just help him, kind of do some business development stuff, and jumped into it, loved it, and it's become my day-to-day thing now. So
yeah, man. And what's it called, Derrion?
It's called Thomas 58 Construction.
Perfect.
And,
man.
Yeah.
Everybody in Kansas City wants Thomas 58 Construction.
Yeah. We've been able to do some pretty good things, and kind of one of my passions there is, and if I can get it done, hopefully people that listen to this podcast will help me push this thing.
Yeah.
But really have a passion to get some really big things going back on the east side of Kansas City where I grew up.
Okay.
Also where my dad implanted his Third and Long Foundation deal over at the library there. And so working on some pretty big things to try to rebuild and revitalize the east side of Kansas City and bring it back to what it was.
Man, Derrion, I love this.
Kind of my passion project.
No, I can feel it.
If we can get it done, that's what I'll be working on.
Yeah, I think that's it. I feel that deeply. Like you got such a great big heart, and you show your emotion in real life in the way your dad showed on the field. And you're definitely living that legacy. I think one of the hardest things in our world right now, and what I help my clients with a lot, is helping them understand that you have to show your emotion. Because when you show your emotion and you speak, or you play a game, or you send a text, or you send an email, that emotion is your spirit, and it transfers to that action, to the thing, right? And so you're a great model for that, man. You're a great model for that.
Yeah. I mean, and I think for years and years, it's I guess it's one of those things where one of those things where I guess for me in my childhood was I wouldn't say it was traumatic, but
Mm, I mean,
it was very different than like I said, most people could really, I mean, because there was the good and there was the people who loved him, but there's always the negative, and the oh, he has so many kids, and oh, he was irresponsible, and this is why he died, and so my mom really tried to shelter me from that,
oh
growing up,
wow,
and so I didn't go to school for almost a year after his passing.
really?
Um, and so it's to it was always, you got to not close yourself off from other people, or be a little bit more sheltered or concerned with who's around or who you're talking to, or who you're with, because people have an ulterior motive and
Yep,
would love to be able to say this about you, or
yep,
they'd love to be able to have this and say, oh yeah, well, Derrick Thomas son and this and that, and I've
yep,
experienced that, and I try to shrug that off and say, well, people are going to be assholes,
yep.
and you can't help that. Um, and I think maybe in the past 3 or 4 years, I've started to kind of get to a place where I feel comfortable with sharing my emotion,
Yeah.
and the things that I went through, and how they've affected my life. And if people want to take that and spin it, or people want to take that and
No,
do whatever, then
I love it,
that's
Darren. And
that's for them. So
when you're sharing your emotion, your soul's coming out and say hello. And when you're
yeah,
doing that, it's seamless what's coming out of your mouth, man. I
right,
mean, it's meant to be. Like
yeah,
it's meant to
yeah,
be. Well, Darian, thank you for your time today. I have 4 questions for you, and
yeah.
then
Go ahead.
I'd like to do a part 2 at some point because
Yeah,
I
definitely.
want to I want to talk more about what you're doing, and maybe we can kick off these goals that you have in the Kansas City area, right? But the first question is, what do you love? What do you love more than anything in the world?
Well, first off, my family. I mean, I said through this whole thing, through my whole life, my family's always been there for me.
Yeah,
But and also, uh, I say just family, but my extended family, those people who've stepped up into different roles in my life, to fill those shoes of my dad. But I mean, I think my true love, true passion is connecting with people.
yeah,
I love to know people's stories. Um, whenever I go out and about, I love talking to people.
mm,
Because that's what life is really about, and to understand that the people is what made my dad's career what it was, and your community is who you are. So I mean, that's what I mean. I love going out and talking to people, and learn their story, and you know, the,
love it.
the
Number
good, the bad, the
two,
ugly.
number two, what makes you tick? What gives you joy? What gets you excited?
Uh, it gives me joy. I mean, just about anything. I, I mean, I think just life in general is something to be happy about. It's something to cherish. So, um, just getting up every day and um, trying to live life, and you know, not hurt anybody, and be respectful and stuff like that. I mean,
That's good.
that's really, at the end of the day, that's what anybody wants. They just want to be happy. So,
Yep. Number three, what are your purposes?
my purposes, um, I think they're ever changing.
Yep.
I think,
Yeah, you've had a lot of legs of life. Like you've had a
yeah,
lot of legs.
yeah. So, I mean, I think to help people,
Mm-hmm.
to help to continue. help to continue a legacy, but also to build my own legacy.
Yes.
And understand that those two can be those two things can work together, but also be separate.
Yes.
So that, and then just to be a good
Okay.
person. I mean,
Last question. Why is Derrion Thomas on Earth?
why is Derrion Thomas on Earth? I would say to be able to I hope to be able to I don't know a better word, but enrich the lives of others to to help other people realize their dreams, or
Yes.
where they can go, or I don't know what that looks like or how I do it, or if I'm doing a good job of it right now.
You're
but
on the
that's
journey. You're on the journey.
but that's ultimately the goal. I mean, that's what I feel in my heart, whether I'm doing that right now or I'm accomplishing it. That's how I look at life, or that's who I want to be. So,
well, let's do it. I feel it, Derrion. Let's make it happen. Is there any last words you want to leave with the audience?
Last words. No, I mean, I think the like the biggest takeaway from leading up to this and talking to you today is just that I mean, there's a lot of comfort and self-reflection, and I've been able to do a lot of that here recently. And learning stuff about myself that maybe I had suppressed maybe for years, and it's kind of all come to the forefront over the past couple of weeks. So there's a lot.
Yeah, man, and we felt it today.
So yeah, I mean, if I could leave people with anything, is just be yourself, and sometimes we got to have hard conversations with ourselves to be our better self. And I know that's a deeply emotional thing, but man, that's kind of where I am in my life right now. It's it's been a lot of self-reflection, a lot of kind of digging deep. So that's kind of where I am today. So
that's perfect. Yeah. And we're definitely gonna do a part 2, because we we need to let people know where you're at, maybe in like 6 months or a year from now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to today. Derrion, how can they reach out to you if they want you to come speak at their events? Like, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on. I think I'm at Too Many Friends on Facebook, but through or email me at Derrion THMS at 58 the number builds BUILDS.com.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll get something else going and be able to share a little bit more.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, Derrion, and thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.